Hello viewers, and welcome to another edition of our women's program Karimpe. Well, today we are gathered here in the studios of Doordarshan Kendra Shillong once again to discuss a very important topic. Now, the topic that we are going to discuss today is, of course, institutional and societal changes that needs to come about when we are talking about empowering the woman. Well, when we talk about empowerment of women, well, it is said that empowering women and ensuring equal rights to both men and women actually should be one of the topmost agenda of any country for its progress and development. There are often tall claims made of the gender index, but let me give you some figures and facts here recently that I've just come across. Gender Inequality Index, which has just come out in March 2024, states that India is placed in 108th position out of the 193 countries. And when we are talking about gender index gap, India is placed to 127th position out of the 146 countries. It really doesn't speak well about our country, does it? But as I said, despite these tall claims, yes, the reality is this, and the fact that women are still lagging behind in most of the aspects and in most of the sectors, be it social, education, economic, political, etc. Now, of course, women make up half of the population, and I dare say it very bluntly here that what progress are we talking about when this half population of the country is actually denied, or her powers and opportunities, her rights are given? My question is, who has the authority to give? And why is it always that women have to be given their rights and opportunities? We don't speak about such a thing for men, do we? Well, this is some of the reality that we will be taking up in this discussion today. Now, when we are talking about gender equality, well, women most times are still relegated to the kitchen as if she belongs there. But I'm not saying that, a housewife's role is less important or of lesser value. Of course, it is one of the most important tasks that she is doing. But my concern is, why is women always kept in the inner space and men always supposed to be in the outer space? Well, as I raise these questions today, it is also said gender equality is one of the fundamental aspects of achieving human rights as well. When it comes to health, when it comes to education, when it comes to poverty, well, when it comes to women's participation in politics and leaderships, it is found that women are most of the times lagging behind or are not being able to do it to her full potential. So that is why we need to take up this topic again and to discuss where the inequality stems from and what more needs to be done to bridge this divide that we are talking about. So, to speak about women empowerment and how do we empower a woman, and to find out what kind of changes that are required in the institutional and in the societal level, we are being joined by a very esteemed panel here. So let me go ahead and introduce our panelists to you. To my immediate left is Patricia Mukim. Srimati Patricia Mukim, as you all very well know, is the editor of the Shillong Times. We are also being joined by a gentleman here. He is Y.H. Shimre. He is the Assistant Professor, Department of Sociology, Martin Luther Christian University here in Shillong. We are also being joined by Finlay E.J. Singhai. She is also the head of the Department Sociology in St. Edmund's College. So there you have it. So I'm sure that after, getting introduced to our panelists here, knowing who they are, you will understand how deeply engaging this conversation and this discussion is going to be. So thank you for joining us, and do remain tuned in for the next almost 30 minutes. So very, very hearty welcome to each one of you, Kongpat, Shimre and Finlay, for coming to the studios of Doordarshan Kendra Shillong and for being a part of this program. We have spoken about this, these aspects of women Time and time again, this is not the first time that we have taken up such topics, but we need to discuss it all over again. And my first question to you, Kongpat, is how critical is the need, do you feel, is for women empowerment to bring about gender equality?
See, this is an imperative. Actually, we should take it very seriously, and it should be there, even unconsciously. It should come into institutions, into homes, into every walk of life, business and every other thing, in governments too. But we don't see that happening. And you, in your introduction, you spoke about women's empowerment and who is going to empower women. Nobody is going to empower women because it means sharing of power, sharing of resources. So women have to really come out of their, their little shadows, come out and claim their rights. If you don't claim your right, you're not going to get it. And there are ways of claiming those rights. One of the things I've been telling people in government, first of all, is to do a gender budgeting of all the schemes to see whether it benefits women or men. Unless we do that, if we just allocate resources blindly, then it becomes gender blind. The resources are moving out, but we don't know the impact. And we talk about poverty. They say poverty has a feminine face, and in Meghalaya we have 37% of the population actually living below poverty line. So we know who that impacts the most, because the survey says 42% of households in this state are led by single women parents. So it is exacerbating, the kind of pressures, the kind of disempowerment, the feeling of not being taken care of by the state, by society, because even society is not doing anything on its own. We don't have robust civil societies to take up these issues. We have NGOs, but NGOs are not civil society. They can't come out on the streets.
All right, we'll come back to you, Kongpat. Thank you for your opening comments. I come to you, Shimre. From the sociological point of view, how do you look at gender empowerment?
Okay, yeah, Kongpat has given a very nice illustration of the gender issue in Northeast context. Yes, in sociology, we have the concept of empowerment, women empowerment. So actually, we are talking about three things. The women itself realizing her own worth. Second point is trying to actualize that value. And the third part is about demanding what is, what is their rights. Yeah, what is her right. So that is very important when we talk about it. So it's a very pertinent question that you have asked us. The thing is that right now in these modern times, we have this agency theory where we're talking about how women have to, practice her own right, her own voice. So yes, in this context, I would only like to emphasize one thing, that like Kongpat has said, no one is going to empower women but women herself. So actually me as being the only male panelist here, so the only
you are a champion of women's rights.
Yes, I do accept that. So the only way I see is that how do we facilitate, not get the right for them, but how do we facilitate this agency in any way possible? So by me being here, I feel that is one of the means. And when I address the three of you, I don't see you as women. I see you as a person. That's very important. Last point I would like to make is that in academic research, the gender issue is, I would say, well researched. But the issue is how do we transfer this theory, data into practice. So that we have to emphasize very much, and the only way that many academicians and researchers have talked about is how, when we're planning policies and programs, how we have to localize it into the local context.
Between the, they say, from the laboratory to the ground, there's a huge gap, there's a huge margin, because you don't know how to translate that theory into action. How do we bridge that gap?
Right. So, and I just bring in Finlay once again into this discussion. Which are some of the core areas of problems you feel are there when we are talking about gender empowerment?
Yeah, first of all, the general understanding of what is empowerment. You know, like many people don't really capture the meaning of empowerment. Empowerment, you know, I find a very beautiful definition in the Collins Dictionary.
Okay.
It says to enable, to give ability, to permit. You know, so these are things that can actually really help, you know, us to understand where do we start, you know, when it comes to empowerment. And you know, drawing the line from what they've spoken earlier, I feel yes, we are talking of gender empowerment, I mean women empowerment, but we also have to start with the root. You know, the problem is at the root. We cannot heal the tree, and the root is with the girl child. So primary socialization plays a very important role. You know, gender socialization plays a very important role. That the girl child should be equipped with skills and knowledge. She should be aware. She should also have the knowledge that she can also access resources or even inheritance and this and that, and use those skills to affect her life in the future.
Yeah, in a better
way.
Yeah.
So the problem is actually in the home, how we socialize, how we bring up the children.
Right.
So girl empowerment to me is important. And in relation to this, very briefly, you know, when we're talking of women empowerment, girl empowerment, then female empowerment also is very much aligned to this. And even though this started in the West, you know, in the early 19th century or 20th century with the right to franchise, you know, they are, you know, the female empowerment, it coincide with important phases in the women movements.
Right.
You know, so from there, from franchise, and it went, the second phase went into the sex revolution, and then from there it goes to different other things.
Right.
So, you know, we should just understand that it all should begin with the child, you know, the girl
Absolutely.
child.
Okay. I bring in Kong Pat again here. Which, according to you, again, I bring this question to you, are the core areas where the problem lies where, Kong Pat?
See, gender is a social construct and we are all victims of it. We've all been tailored to think in a certain way that these are the areas
Guidelines,
in
the
which we,
rules.
yeah, these are the lines within which we should be seen
Right.
and not transgress, you know. And these are what men can do, these are what women can do, these are what women cannot do. If we do not deconstruct that in the real world, if we don't bring up our children, as she said, bring up our children to understand that they have the same faculties as their brothers, you know, or as other male members in their family. Because we, I think, are brought up thinking that men have much more sort of, we say in Khasi, you know, khatar bor, and we are shibor. That itself tells us,
We are just shibor.
yeah,
Yes.
shibor. Men are
Sad.
khatar bor, they can do many things. That is the first thing that has to be deconstructed. Yeah, and also, how do I as a mother bring up my son?
Right.
That is so important. If we can have these family conversations at home, if we can tell our sons, you make your own bed, you wash your own clothes.
Equality at home,
Nobody is going to do it for you because it is a habit.
Right.
A habit means you've taken for granted that everyone will do all those things for the sons. Daughters will have to do their own thing. So how we bring up our male family members is a matter of great concern, because we are still doing the same old thing, but we expect change. Then we have to design diversity in institutions, and that means we have to have role models. If we don't have role models, it's very difficult for women to look up to anyone, you know. Everywhere, every picture, everything, every panel becomes a manual. At NEHU the other day, NEHU Foundation Day, all the discussants were male, as if there were no women in NEHU to take up that position. So it requires a lot of in-depth thinking and planning. It has to be by design. We have to do things by design, otherwise we will always fall in that
Right.
stereotype. No?
Absolutely. You know, all the don'ts are, it seems, for the girl
women.
child, right? I mean, there is hardly any don'ts for the boy child. You know, I mean, I say it quite bluntly, even for a sanitary napkin, when I have to purchase it, you know, it is wrapped in a newspaper. Why is it so embarrassing for the society to see that I'm carrying this?
We did a little study on that from MLCU. So the girls were asked to go and buy sanitary napkins. The man said, wait till all the customers have gone, then he will very quietly. What is it about that? I mean, now we speak openly because those sanitary napkins are, you know, they're landing up in rivers and all because they're disposable ones. So we are talking of, in fact, even Dr. Glenn, the Chancellor of Martin Luther University, we all talk about this reusable sanitary pads.
Right.
What is wrong? It's biology, no? It's our
Absolutely.
biology.
It's a known fact, and
Yeah.
yet we are the number one populated
we have
country
to
now.
say that in very hush-hush things.
Exactly. So, you know, how do you look at it, you know, Shimre? You're very brave, of course, to come to this program. And, you know, many would actually not wish to be. They often tell me, oh, for a women's program, why do you need me? Those terms also I've heard,
No,
actually.
but
yeah.
Mosh, we have to remember that the United Nations had set up this movement called He for She.
Right.
You know, where men themselves want to build solidarity with women in empowering them.
Yes.
Right, right, yeah. So, for a man, how do you look at the picture really when you see so many discrepancies happening, so many don'ts for a woman? What role can a man really play in this, you feel,
Okay.
to bring about those
Thank
changes?
you so much for this question. Compat has said many things about institution and organization playing a role. As a man, the best thing to do is, number one, to keep in mind one thing.
Right.
Gender is a social construct, and it all starts with the mind. So as a man, I think we should start trying to retune our perception. Number one is that, as I've said, as I always repeat, women should be seen as a person. And in these do's and don'ts, the best way, because there are so many challenges in terms of institutions, not allowing even men to bring dignified treatment to women. So at the personal level, we should always try to give a dignified treatment. So
what is stopping men from doing that, actually?
I would say that most of it is unconscious.
Unconscious bias.
Yes.
You have to
Unconscious
de-bias.
bias, yes.
You know, this de-biasing is a huge problem. It's a mental problem. It has to be deconstructed in the mind, as you
But
said.
then I just bring this question, is it a little better here in the Northeast, where women apparently have a little bit more empowerment than the rest of the country? I mean, both these questions are of all three of you. Yes, Finlay, if you want to take it up.
I
In a
would say
matrilineal society of Shillong, is it any better than the rest of the country?
it's a mixed answer, actually.
Okay.
Yes and no. Being matrilineal also puts a lot of pressure on the woman, especially in case of a separation or a divorce. Then you find it's on her shoulder to bring up the children again, because the registration of marriage is not
there as
is not
yet,
really
yes.
fully functioning over here. Like, people are not really going in for registration. Then and then again, we have it coming to the Khasi society. We have this very unique practice in our community where the inheritance would go to the khaddo,
Right.
and automatically we create inequality even amongst the daughters. Only one is advantaged, the others are already disadvantaged.
Not just between daughters, I think the sons and daughters also.
Yes.
right?
So the answer would be like yes and no, but the whole thing is this, again, the pattern of socialization. So what we need now is actually really reform in social institutions and within social structures as well, so that we.
But who will do the reforms, Kongpat? Because women are not even there in the Shillong
No,
level,
I
etc.
have to respond to that.
Yeah.
The khaddo, as the youngest daughter, inherits the ancestral property of her parents. And I agree with you that if the parents have enough properties, they could give it to everyone, sons and daughters. But if they have just one household, then it goes to the youngest, because she's also looking after the parents.
Okay.
Of course, in situations where she's not looking after the parents, I think There are cases where that have landed in court, where the other siblings are asking for a share. But that, that said, we have to remember that our society is evolving very fast, and today there are more men who own property perhaps than women, because all the the so-called rural areas have been taken over for plantations, for either rice plantation or any of the commercial crops,
Right.
and most of them are owned by men. It was never like that in the past.
Okay.
In the past, if husband and wife decide to buy a home, automatically it would be thought that it would be in the name of the woman.
Okay.
But now when men are investing, because here we, for us land is like a stock, a stock
Investment, yeah.
investment. So many are buying land,
And you feel it's more the men who
yeah,
are actually.
and if you're looking at 76% of rural Meghalaya being landless according to the socio-economic caste census 2011,
Okay.
it would mean that those 76% of the population are women.
Women,
If you
okay.
think of
Most of
land being in the women's name. So, and then another aspect about Meghalaya being matrilineal with a patriarchal worldview is we are not allowed to head the Darbar or to hold office in the Darbar. That is the grassroots institution. In the rest of the country, we have Panchayati Raj. Here we continue with tradition and we continue to support it because we don't want any change that will bring equity.
But we have something called the Senkanthes. What is their role?
Come on, you know better what is the role of Senkanthe. It is
Just
to
bring it out in the open, Kongpan.
it means to cook while the Darbar is doing something else. We will make tea, we will cook, we will serve everyone. And maybe once in a while we'll bring to the notice of the Darbar that we need a creche or we need... I mean, I will not discount the role of the Senkanthe, but it is not a political body.
Yeah.
It's a social body. You need a political body. You need political empowerment.
Right, and women need to head head organization,
Yes.
head institution, take decisions for themselves.
Yes.
Shimre, your quick comments on this.
My take on this is, I think this discussion is coming to a very important point. For many years, decades, we're talking about representation of women in decision-making level body. But there is a lack of, there is a need to drive home the point that they really do need to represent, women really need to represent in political parties, because who else can talk about women issues rather
Better
than
than
women, because it's a life experience of women. I cannot, I cannot say that I will be, I know that would really defeat the point. So that's very important.
Right,
And
right.
in terms of gender issues about Northeast and India and all that, there are many ways of looking at it. Gender development, intakes, health issues and all that, that is one way.
Education also.
Yes,
I mean,
education
so
also.
many dropouts are actually the girls mostly.
Yeah. And
So when we are almost coming to a close, unfortunately.
It is sad
Yeah.
that we are coming to a close
Yeah.
because I really want to speak on
So
this
much, yeah.
teenage pregnancy in Khasi society
Yeah,
particularly,
please tell us a little
which
bit, Kongpan.
actually is replicating poverty again and again.
Yes.
See, she drops out of school. She marries at 14 or 15 years. By 16, 17, she has 3 kids or 2 kids. And the man has already left.
Yeah.
And then she has no resources to educate those
Support.
children.
There is no support at
You
all.
go to any part of rural Meghalaya, you will see boys of 10 and 12 years already looking after cows and sheep. I've asked so many of them, why are you not in school? They laugh. They said, no, my mother is alone, she can't support me. Even if there are both parents, I've seen kids saying, we are too many in the family. So we don't have, you talk of family planning, they will not accept it. So you keep on producing
children, right?
babies, but you don't have the resources to look after them. Our nutritional levels are so low.
Yes.
So the cognitive domain of the child is very, very poor.
Absolutely.
Then how do you expect the child to do well in school? There's so many of these things.
The whole gamut of
Yeah.
it actually. But then, however, for us it is to bring these issues to light, so the society starts thinking in these terms, so that we can usher in some kind of change. As we are closing in, Finde, what is your quick take on the way forward? What are some of, because the topic is institutional and societal change, so what are those quick changes you think? Quickly, if you could just highlight them.
maybe, I mean, of course, the government of India has also given certain rights provisions to actually affect in a positive way the position of women in society, you know, affecting her empowerment. You know, the workplace culture, then, you know, more involvement in, or maybe more, you know, like the Pradhan Mantri, you know, the scheme for, you know, to enable women to have, you know, what we would call set up small businesses, self-help groups, all of these. And the question should come back to us, you know, what can we do as women or as members of society to, you know, help enhance women empowerment, because you know, psychologically also we have to understand we need to be empowered, and then, you know, so many other things.
So the mindset change, I think, needs a big change, and then only all other changes can quickly. Your closing comments, Shimre.
My take on this: we need advocacy. Yes, advocacy is already being done, but we need to step it up.
Yes.
There's one simple point that I would like to put. Change cannot happen with just everyone agreeing. We have to be comfortable with that situation, with that idea. Advocacy is needed, and advocacy in educational institutions should be more attuned to participatory approach, where instead of talking about seminars and symposiums, we show
go to the field,
demonstration, and along with the practical aspect, we need to involve the students.
This, I think, Kongpat will certainly agree, because this is something that you hone it and tell it again and again. Your education should be field-based. Quickly, your closing comments.
So, see, education in the villages, I agree with her that we need these self-help groups. They're very empowering. Provided they are trained to speak up, because as you said, voice is agency. Nobody should represent anyone. Let every woman speak for herself, and they feel comfortable in those self-help groups. And I think if universities and all the colleges send out their young students and engage with these women, it'll be a great help, a great step forward.
All right, thank you so much. It's been a wholesome discussion. Kongpat, as usual, wonderful to listen to you. Shimre, thank you so much, and Finlay for coming to the studio. I think at the end of the day, when we look at it, I think change needs to come, and a change can come only when a woman can decide for herself, both within the house and outside of her house, and she will be at the decision-making level. I think that is very, very important.
Behavioral change. Behavioral change.
Yeah, behavioral change, and the ability that women should be able to bring that change herself for herself, right? Without others doing it for her. So on that note, thank you so much to each one of you, and I'm sure that our viewers also engage themselves in this program, and you also got enlightened by this discussion. Well, until next time, from all of us here, it's wishing you goodbye.